Hello, everybody. Adam Parks here with another episode of Receivables Roundtable. Today, I am here with my friend Jimmy Chebat, who is the founder of ZiZo Technology. Really cool organization. Today, we're going to talk to you a little bit about gamification in the receivables management space. This was something that Jimmy had talked to me about many years ago, and I don't think I really understood it until I got a chance to see what he had built and the effect that it was having on a collections floor. So Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ed.
Absolutely. So I know a lot of people that are watching this are already going to be familiar with you and your organization, but for those that are new to the industry, could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got to the seat that you're in today?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a background in technology and in business. And back in 2007, I actually had my own IT consulting company, and I was helping a customer of mine set up their IT for a collection agency. And, that matured into more of a business relationship beyond just IT, and it turned into a business partnership. And, I got involved in expanding the collections operation and getting involved in the arm industry. And as we grew, our organization, it grew very quickly. I started to get involved in operations. And, for me, when used to dealing with, C-suite individuals, high-level professionals, and then getting into kind of the operational side of collections, it's a little bit of a culture shock for me. And it was something of that really reminded me of almost like a high school cafeteria. It was just something that, not only was I not used to, but it wasn't something that I was really proud of being a part of. And so I set out to change it. I wanted more of an accountable workforce. And, when I looked to the systems of record that we were using, of course, the collection software is primarily focused on account management, portfolio management, compliance management, and payment processing, things of that nature. Not really a lot there for performance management. And so, I set out, I built my first iteration of what is now ZiZo Technologies, the ZiZo app, and really just trying to focus on accountability and performance management. And, I started by reverse engineering the primary KPI, what most collection agencies focus on, which is, the end of month number, your goal target. And I reverse engineered that number because that's really a trailing indicator, right? You're not going to know whether or not you have success until the end of the month. And so I didn't want to have that trailing indicator. I wanted more leading indicators. So I reverse engineered that number and said, hey, how do we get to this number? Well, of course, you got to make phone calls, right? And then you got to close deals, and you got to bring in, production dollars. And that's got to be broken down on how much green money or money today. I mean, those are some of the terms that the collection agencies use. And I started capturing that information. And then I started making it public, for people to know. And over the years, it started expanding, and I started setting expectations. And then I started setting different expectations because, hey, not everybody's equal, right? Somebody new starting out is not going to have the same expectations as one of your veterans. So I created rank levels and created experience points to help people promote it. And so this evolved into what is now considered gamification. Back then, I had no clue what gamification meant, but it was an effective tool that helped me build a new culture, an accountable workforce that I was more proud of becoming part of. And, fast forward to 2018, I recognized that, regardless of how great my culture was, we were starting to see an uptick in attrition. And that had a lot to do with the new generational workforce, increased wages, the gig economy, providing all of these other options. And people were just disengaged. So I set out to rebuild this platform, and that's kind of how we developed and came up with ZiZo Technologies and the ZiZo app. And, I wound up exiting from the collection space, selling my agency to focus primarily on this application. And here we are, in 2020, I launched the business, and in 2022, we launched the application. So we're excited to be here.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you guys are doing some really interesting things within the gamification space, and it's definitely something I've seen more of over time here. I know, like for example, our team uses Zoho as kind of like our main platform for managing our clients, our workflows, and all those kinds of things, our deal flow, pipelines, and whatnot. And then we have kind of this little bit of a gamification to that. And then I've started using, I've been learning Portuguese. And as I've been learning Portuguese, I've been doing it on an app called Duolingo. And I can tell you that the gamification of that app has me going back every day because, oh my God, I've been doing it for whatever it is, 48 days straight. Like I can't break that streak now. And so it's become this like driving factor that I have to go back and at least touch it every day. Otherwise, like my streak ends or I'm not going to be on the leaderboard in the same position. So I'm starting to like, after you started talking about it, I never really looked at this gamification or how it was driving behaviors that I was actually conducting. And now I see it very clearly. Like I have to go, I haven't done Duolingo yet today. Like after this recording, like I have to go do my Duolingo and make sure that I've learned that much Portuguese for the day. So clearly it's something that you guys have seen, you know, how has this had an effect on a collections floor, right? I can't tell you how many agencies I've been into, especially when I owned Compliant Arm. I'd go into all these agencies and you see the whiteboard, right? And you see where everybody's at on this whiteboard. Not only how much time does it take to manage this whiteboard, is it accurate, but is that feedback, you know, really the same? Like, how did you, I know you started kind of looking at some of that stuff that was existing there, but how did you take that to the next level? Like, what was that aha moment for you?
Well, let me go back to your statement about Duolingo, right? And so the definition of gamification is the application of game mechanics to non-game tasks, right? With the intent to engage and enhance the experience, right? To create loyalty, brand loyalty, right? Like you said, it keeps you coming back every day. So it creates a stickiness to that site and has you engage with the product, which makes the product more effective, right? That's the ultimate goal, right? Is to make it more effective, because if you buy the app and you don't learn Portuguese and you say, hey, it's not effective, it's not really the app's fault, it's your fault. You never went back to go. So they create this stickiness to it. So the whiteboard, you mentioned the whiteboard, that's actually where that aha moment came in. We, as part of our operations, and I'm sure hundreds, if not thousands of other collection agencies, you had that traditional whiteboard up there. And that served two purposes, really. Number one, it gave you a snapshot of current day's productivity, right? If the whiteboard was empty, you knew that, hey, we got to do something to get these guys motivated and get them going. Number two, it served as a form of recognition, right? So as people walked up to the board, they grabbed the marker and they wrote their name and they say, hey, this is the third time Adam's come up to the board. Great job. So you get peer recognition, you get leadership recognition, and that's part of that motivation, right? People want to be recognized. They want to feel like they're a part of something. Collections industry is naturally gamified, right? You have contests, you have tournaments, and inherently they're problematic. And we found those same problems with our operations, where you threw a contest and it's the same leaders that kind of rise to the top and they win all, and then you're alienating 75% of your workforce because they're thinking, I don't even have a chance, right? So they don't even bother to try anymore. Or you try to switch it up and you say, you know what, we're going to give everybody an equal opportunity. The more deals you close, maybe you get a raffle ticket, and the more opportunities you have to win. And then maybe one of your low performers wins, and then you're pissing off your veterans, right? They're saying that's not fair. So regardless of how you try to manage it, you're pissing somebody off. So that was one of our one of our objectives, is how do we make it objective? How do we make it fair? How do we make it so that everybody's involved? And so when we built this application, a lot of it's built on you, an individual, and their own rank level. So people are just competing against themselves. And then you still have, your contests, your tournaments, but also collaborative contests, which are highly effective. When people are working together towards a common goal, your team chemistry is built, your culture is built, that whole working together atmosphere is a much more positive atmosphere than everybody working against each other. So we have a whole host of different game mechanics and gameplays that allow some freedom and flexibility for every agency to kind of gear it towards their own culture and their own workforce.
Very interesting. So I know one of the things that I was always fascinated by in terms of management theory was Douglas McGregor's management theory, X and Y, right? X is, those that work hard for their own self-satisfaction. Y is work hard enough not to get fired. So as you work on these like kind of collaborative type games, right, or collaborative type contests, do you find that your X's are leading your Y's, or is there some segregation to it, and the X's are, just carrying the entire group? Like, what are you experiencing now that you're able to look at some real data behind that type of performance?
Yeah, I think with every workforce, you're going to have your bell curve, right? You're going to have
Sure.
your top performers, you're going to have your low performers, and you're going to have most people up at the top of the bell curve in the average range. Our intention and objective is to push that further along so everybody starts to kind of get better. And I believe in micromanagement. I don't believe in micromanaging, right? So I don't think that people respond to somebody looking over their shoulders and telling them, hey, you got to do better, you got to do this. So we use more of the extrinsic motivation tools, right? So when we give them that data, transparency, I think, is one of the key elements of gamification that's critical to success. People need feedback, right? And they need immediate feedback, not a month later saying, hey, you didn't do good enough this month. If you don't do well enough next month, you're not going to have a job, right? But if I tell you after you close a deal and I walk up to you and say, hey, Adam, great job, you just closed this deal, wonderful job, here's some rewards, right? And every time you do that, that immediate feedback is gonna push you to repeat that same positive behavior. And at the same time, from a negative standpoint, if you do something wrong, if you're not meeting your daily objectives, they're gonna say, hey, you need to do better. And then maybe it's a flag or a trigger for some coaching opportunities, right?
Mhm.
And there's a whole host of tools that you can use to kind of pair people up, a mentor protege program, where you incentivize some of your top performers and match them up with your low performers. And they get rewarded for the progress and the enhancement of performance on your low performers. And so there's a reason for them to kind of help their teammates. So, I understand the X and Y, and I know you're going to have both regardless of what you're using. We just want to move everything forward so that way everybody's performing at a higher level and change the culture so that way it's more positive, using gamification as opposed to it being a counterproductive tool.
Well, and it does sound like an incredibly productive tool, right? It sounds like something that is moving collectors forward and driving financial performance. Now, in terms of an organization trying to deploy something like this, right? They want to take your technology, they want to make it work within their organization. Kind of a two-part question, but like, what kind of lift is required and from who? And what does that timeline look like? So, I want to deploy it. How, is this IT production? Like, who on my team needs to be involved? How much of their time is required? And how quickly can I have this thing up and running in order to drive performance within my own organization?
Yeah, the time to value is one of our KPIs, right? So it's
Okay.
how quickly can we get from contract to deployment, right?
Mhm.
And there are so many variables, and we're constantly working to improve that.
Sure.
So a lot of it is, of course, IT, right? And then also your vendors. For
Mhm.
this to work, we have to be able to integrate with your systems of record.
Mhm.
Uh, Meaning that we've got to be able to get the data from their systems into our data warehouse, because we don't want you pinging your systems every time you're trying to pull reports, because it just stresses those systems. So we grab that relevant data and put it into our system. One of the advantages of that, now you have a 360-degree view of all of your systems. So maybe it's your time and attendance, your compliance, your phone system, your collection software. All of that data is being housed in our data warehouse. We map it, we optimize it, we give you that business intelligence, so it's beyond just gamification. It's data centralization and business intelligence reports. So to answer your question, we need your vendors to be heavily involved, and we're adding to our integrated partners list. So as we integrate with your systems of records, now all of their clients, that lift becomes a lot lower.
Mhm.
Uh, Now we're
Sure.
also working with your operations team. So one of the differentiators between us and any other gamification software is that we automate the entire process, meaning that this is not another system that you have to manage. Everything is done automatically, except some of the gameplay, like building those contests. Those take 2 minutes. You've seen the demo. It's not a very time-intensive tool to have to use, but everything else in terms of reward distribution, recognition, communication, all that stuff is automated,
Mhm.
but it requires some discovery, right? We need to understand what sort of performance is acceptable. What's your peak performance? we put all of these parameters into our system. And we actually simulate your historical data to make sure that we're distributing the rewards appropriately, that people aren't being progressed from rookie status to superstar status in 1 month, right? We want that progression to be having kind of a sort of cadence to it. And so all of this done, so there is a slight lift up front, but the beauty of that is once it's done, it's automated, it's launched, it's automated. So you don't have to have that type of lift constantly.
I love it. I think we're going to have to go into more detail in a webinar when we have some more time. Jimmy, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me today. Gamification has just got me so intrigued, and especially understanding how the receivables management space works, how motivation works within individuals and key management theory, kind of bringing all of those things together under one umbrella, under one piece of technology is such an interesting way to approach this industry.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I love coming on. You know how passionate I am about this. I could talk for hours. So maybe a webinar would be a better platform.
Well, we'll definitely do some more content together in the near future. For those of you that are watching today, if you have additional questions that you'd like to ask Jimmy, you can leave those in the comments below. Both Jimmy and I will be tagged in answering questions here on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you have any additional topics that you'd like to see us cover, you can leave those in the comments below as well. For those of you watching, thank you so much for your time today as well. We really appreciate everybody watching and interacting with us as we continue to create great content for such a great industry in the short term. Jimmy, I'll see you again real soon in an upcoming conference, I'm sure.
Of course. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And for all of you that are watching, thank you so much as well. We'll see you all again soon.